Hello everyone, welcome to Mythical Sleeps. I am glad you are here. Tonight, the world outside can wait. The emails, the notifications, the endless noise of the day, none of that exists in this space. Here, there is only the quiet hum of history. We are going to take a journey back, far back, before the noise of the modern age, to a time when the night sky was the only light and the silence of the earth was unbroken. Find a comfortable position. Adjust your pillows. Pull the blanket up to your chin. Let your body sink into the mattress. Imagine that your bed is a raft, floating gently on a calm, dark river. Close your eyes. Unclench your jaw. Let your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth. Let your shoulders drop, down, away from your ears. Take a deep breath in, filling your lungs with cool, clean air, holding it for a moment, and letting it out. And again, in and out. Imagine you are standing in a vast museum at night. The crowds are gone. The doors are locked. It is just you and the silence of history. In the center of the hall, bathed in a single shaft of pale moonlight, stands a statue. It is a man, leaning heavily on a wooden club. This is Hercules. We know him as a god of strength. But looking at him now, in the quiet of the night, we see something else. He is not fighting. He is resting. His head is bowed. His muscles are relaxed, heavy with exhaustion. One hand hangs loosely at his side. Tonight, we will walk with him. We will hear his whole story. Not the loud battles of the movies, but the quiet, human journey of a man who carried the weight of the universe so that he could finally put it down. Let the marble cool your thoughts. Let the shadows lengthen. Listen. Our story begins with a silence that lasted for 3 days. Long ago, in the ancient city of Thebes, the sun did not rise. Zeus, the king of the gods, ordered the sun god Helios to keep his fiery chariot in the stables. He stretched the night, making it long and dark and quiet. Under the cover of this extended darkness, Hercules was conceived. He was born into a world of shadows. He lay in a nursery where the windows were open to the warm Greek air. The olive trees rustled outside. The crickets chirped their slow, rhythmic song. But Hera, the queen of the gods, was watching. In the deepest part of the night, she sent 2 serpents into the nursery. Imagine the sound. The heavy wooden door creaking open just an inch. The sound of scales sliding over the cold stone floor. Shh. Shh. They climbed the side of the bronze shield where the baby slept. Hercules woke up. In the moonlight, he saw the danger. He did not cry. He did not scream. He reached out with his small hands. He took the serpents by the neck. He did not squeeze in anger. He squeezed with the simple, unbreakable grip of destiny. The serpents ceased to move. Hercules let them drop to the floor, and then he closed his eyes and went back to sleep. As the boy grew, he felt out of place in the fragile world of the city. He was a giant among men. He broke things he meant to hold. He crushed cups he meant to drink from. He felt clumsy in the world of walls and roofs. So, at the age of 18, he was sent to the mountains. He lived as a shepherd on Mount Kithaeron. This was not a punishment, it was a sanctuary. Imagine the life of a shepherd in ancient Greece. It is a life of absolute solitude. For years, Hercules lived under the sky. He slept on the hard earth, wrapped in a simple cloak of rough wool. He drank from cold mountain streams that tasted of melted snow and granite. He watched the seasons change. He saw the green shoots of spring push through the soil. He felt the dry heat of summer bake the rocks. He watched the leaves turn red and fall in the autumn. He felt the deep, muffled silence of the winter snow. It was here, in the high silence of the mountains, that he became part of the wild, a mountain moving among mountains. One afternoon, while resting under the shade of a pine tree, he had a vision. He found himself standing at a fork in the road. Two women walked toward him. The first woman was dressed in soft, colorful silks. Her skin was perfumed. She smiled, and her smile promised comfort. "My name is Happiness," she lied, though her true name was Vice. "Follow me, Hercules," she said softly. "If you take my path, you will never work. You will never fight. You will sleep on soft beds and drink sweet wine. The sun will never burn you, and the cold will never touch you." The second woman was dressed in plain white wool. Her face was stern but kind. Her eyes held the depth of the ocean. "My name is Virtue," she said. "I have no easy promises for you. If you follow me, you will work. You will bleed. You will carry heavy burdens. The road will be steep. But at the end, you will possess your own soul." Hercules looked at the easy path. It wound down into a lush green valley. It looked so safe. Then he looked at the hard path. It wound up into the rocky crags, disappearing into the mist. He was a young man. He wanted rest. But deep down, he knew that the easy path leads to nothing. He stood up. He chose the mountain. He chose the burden. He returned to the city of Thebes a hero. He married Princess Megara. They had children. For a few years, the house was full of laughter. The mountain shepherd had found a home. But Hera's memory is long. One hot summer night, a dark mist descended upon Hercules' mind. Let us imagine it as a fog, a thick gray fog that rolled in from the sea, blinding him to the faces of those he loved. In the confusion of the fog, tragedy struck. When the mist finally lifted, The silence was terrible. He saw what he had done. He had lost his family. The grief broke him. The strongest man in the world fell to his knees and wept until his throat was dry. He exiled himself. He walked into the wilderness, avoiding the eyes of men. He walked until his sandals wore through. He walked until he reached the center of the world, Delphi. He entered the temple of Apollo. The air smelled of sulfur and burning bay leaves. The oracle sat on her tripod, veiled in smoke. "How do I find peace?" Hercules asked. The oracle's voice came from the darkness. "You must go to your cousin, King Eurystheus. You must serve him for 12 years. You must perform 10 labors. Only then will you have rest." Hercules stood up. He did not argue. He accepted the sentence. He turned south and began the long walk toward his destiny. The first labor took him to the valley of Nemea. The trees here were ancient oaks, their branches locked together overhead to block out the sun. It was a place of deep green shadows. Even the birds did not sing here. The silence was heavy. He was hunting the Nemean lion. This was no ordinary beast. It was a creature of magic, sent by the gods. Its fur was golden and hard as steel. Hercules found the beast sunning itself on a rock. He fired an arrow. Thwip! It bounced off the lion's shoulder like a dry twig hitting a stone wall. He struck it with his bronze sword. The blade bent uselessly. Hercules realized that tools would not save him. The lion turned and walked lazily into its cave. Hercules followed. He stood at the entrance. The air inside was cool and smelled of damp earth and old bones. He entered the darkness. He waited. He slowed his breathing to match the rhythm of the dripping water in the back of the cave. Drip, drip, drip. His eyes adjusted to the gloom. He saw 2 golden eyes glowing in the dark. When the lion sprang, it was not a chaotic fight. It was a wrestling match of silence, muscle against muscle, weight against weight. Hercules wrapped his massive arms around the lion's neck. He did not strike. He simply held on. He applied pressure, slow, steady, unyielding, like the roots of a giant tree crushing a rock over centuries. The lion struggled, thrashing against the stone walls. But Hercules was the mountain. He did not move. Slowly, the struggling ceased. The beast went limp. The cave returned to absolute silence. Hercules skinned the beast using its own sharp claws. He draped the golden pelt over his shoulders. It became his armor, a cloak of gold that no weapon could pierce. He walked out of the cave, armored against the world. From the dry cave, he traveled to the wet fog of the swamp. the lake of Lerna. The air here was thick, humid, and heavy. Mist clung to the surface of the black water. He was seeking the Hydra. The Hydra was a creature of chaos, a serpent with 9 heads. To fight the Hydra is a lesson in frustration. Hercules drew his sword and severed a head. Slash! But from the open wound, 2 new heads burst forth. The more he fought, the worse the problem became. The swamp filled with the hissing of 18 heads. Hercules realized he could not solve this with force alone. He needed heat. He called to his nephew Aeolus, who waited on the shore. "Bring the fire," he said calmly. They lit torches from the burning branches of a pine tree. They fell into a hypnotic rhythm in the mist. Hercules would strike, thud. Aeolus would apply the fire, hiss. Strike, burn, strike, burn. The smoke of the swamp mixed with the steam of the wounds. The motion became repetitive, like a blacksmith hammering iron in a distant forge. Clang, hiss, clang, hiss. One by one, the heads fell and did not return. Finally, only the one immortal head remained. Hercules buried it deep under a massive rock on the roadside. He washed his hands in the water of the lake. The fog began to clear. The hissing stopped, and the swamp was quiet once more. The third labor was a change of pace. It was not a fight. It was a meditation on patience. He was told to catch the Cyrenian hind, a deer with antlers of gold and hooves of bronze. It was sacred to Artemis, the goddess of the wild. He could not harm a single hair on its body. For 1 full year, Hercules followed the golden deer. Imagine walking for a year. He followed it north, into the lands of Hyperborea. He walked through the budding flowers of spring, listening to the birds return. He walked across the dry, cracking earth of summer, feeling the heat on his shoulders. He walked under the falling red leaves of autumn. And finally, he walked into the deep, muffled silence of the winter snow. He slept while walking. He drank from rain puddles. He became part of the landscape. Finally, by the river Ladon, the deer paused to drink. Hercules moved. He did not lunge. He flowed like water. He caught the deer in his arms. It did not struggle. It knew it had been caught by something as patient as the earth itself. Next, he climbed the snowy peaks of Mount Erymanthos. He was chasing a great boar. The air up here was thin and sharp. Every breath was a cloud of white steam. The only sound was the crunch of his boots on the ice. he chased the boar higher and higher, forcing it into the deep snowdrifts. Imagine the sound of the world muffled by snow. The heavy breathing of the boar as it tired, and finally sank into the white powder. It could not move. It was trapped in a prison of soft white. Hercules walked up to it calmly. He bound it in chains and lifted it onto his shoulders. He carried it down the mountain. The weight was heavy, but the silence of the snow was peaceful. He descended then to the stables of King Augeas. It was a place of filth, neglected for 30 years. The smell was overpowering. It was a task meant to humiliate the hero. But Hercules stood on the hill and looked at the landscape. He saw the river Alpheus rushing nearby. He saw the energy of the water. He laid down his weapons. He picked up a shovel. He dug a great trench through the heavy soil. The earth smelled rich and dark. He broke the banks of the river. Whoosh! The water poured into his trench. It did not trickle. It roared. The river swept through the stables. It was a force of nature. It lifted the years of filth and carried them away, dissolving them into the sea. Hercules leaned on his shovel and watched. The sound of the rushing water was cleansing, white noise washing over the land. When the water receded, the stone floor of the stables shone white in the sun. The sixth labor took him to the dark waters of Lake Stymphalia. He was told to drive away the Stymphalian birds. These were not ordinary birds. They were creatures of bronze feathers and sharp beaks, sacred to Ares, the god of war. They congregated in the marshy trees by the thousands. The noise was unbearable. Their metallic wings beat against each other. Clack, clack, clack. Their cries were shrill and chaotic. It was the sound of 1,000 anxieties screaming at once. Hercules tried to approach them, but the ground was too soft. The mud threatened to swallow his feet. He realized he could not fight chaos with more chaos. He needed clarity. He climbed a high, rocky hill overlooking the lake. He reached into his pouch and took out a pair of bronze castanets, crotala, forged by the smith god Hephaestus and given to him by Athena. He held them up to the sky. He took a breath. He struck the bronze plates together. Clang, clang. The sound was pure, sharp, resonant. It cut through the chaotic screeching of the birds like a knife through fog. The birds, creatures of confusion, could not bear the absolute clarity of that note. Startled, they rose into the air as one massive, dark cloud. The sound of their wings was like thunder. They flew away, higher and higher, until they were just specks against the sun. They flew across the sea, never to return. Hercules lowered his hands. He listened. The lake was quiet once more. The only sound was the wind in the reeds. He traveled south, across the wine-dark sea to the island of Crete. King Minos had a bull, the Cretan bull. It was a beast of pure white muscle, a creature of divine origin. It was rampaging through the vineyards, tearing up the earth with its horns. It represented wild, unchecked energy. Hercules stood in the middle of the road. He did not draw a weapon. The bull saw him. It lowered its head. It charged. The ground shook with the rhythm of its hooves. Thud, thud, thud. Hercules did not step aside. At the last moment, he reached out. He caught the bull by its massive horns. He did not break them. He absorbed the impact. He used the bull's own strength to turn its head. Slowly, slowly, the beast was forced to its knees. Hercules held it there. He spoke low, calming words. He held it until the rage left its eyes, until the heaving of its flanks slowed to a steady rhythm. He guided the bull back to the ship, his hand resting gently on its neck. The wild energy was now tamed and focused. He traveled north to Thrace, a land of cold winds and gray skies. He sought the mares of Diomedes. These were 4 horses, magnificent and terrible. They were mad. Their eyes rolled wild in their heads. They were kept in iron chains and fed on terrible things by their cruel master, King Diomedes. Hercules saw the horses. He did not see monsters. He saw creatures that had been abused. He knew that to heal the madness, he had to remove the source. He confronted Diomedes. The battle was swift. The cruel king fell. Once the source of their pain was gone, the horses stopped pulling at their chains. Hercules approached them slowly. He laid a heavy hand on their manes. "Easy," he whispered. "Easy now." Their breathing slowed. The madness faded from their eyes, replaced by a soft, dark calm. He released them from the iron chains. They followed him quietly down to the sea, their hooves clopping softly on the frozen ground. The 9th labor took him to the edge of the known world, the land of the Amazons on the shores of the Black Sea. He sought the belt of Queen Hippolyta. It was a belt of gold and leather, a symbol of her power. When Hercules arrived, the sky was blue and the water was calm. He did not come as an invader. He came as a guest. He met Queen Hippolyta. She was tall, strong, and wise. She saw in Hercules a kindred spirit, someone who understood the burden of strength. They walked along the shore. She offered him the belt freely, as a gift between equals. It should have been a peaceful day, but Hera was watching. She could not let him succeed so easily. She disguised herself as an Amazon warrior. She walked among the women, whispering a lie. "The stranger is not here for the belt," she whispered. "He is here to steal the queen." The lie spread like wildfire. Panic erupted. Hercules saw the warriors drawing their weapons. He saw the arrows knocked to the strings. In the confusion, in the fog of misunderstanding, trust shattered. A battle began. It was a tragedy. Lives were lost that did not need to be lost. Hercules retrieved the belt, but as he sailed away, he looked back at the shore. The sun was setting, turning the sea to blood red. He felt the weight of the belt in his hands. It was heavy. He learned that day that sometimes even a hero cannot stop the chaos of others. His 10th labor was a journey into a dream. He had to steal the red cattle of Geryon from the island of Erythea. To get there, he had to cross the vast Libyan desert. The heat was oppressive. The sun beat down like a heavy hammer. The sand was so hot it scorched his sandals. Hercules, wiped of sweat and frustration, drew his great bow. He aimed it at the sun itself. He was ready to fight the heat. Helios, the sun god, looked down. He was not angry. He was amused by the audacity of this mortal who would challenge a star. He admired the spirit. So, Helios lowered a golden cup down to the shore. It was a boat made of pure light. Hercules stepped into the cup. Imagine sailing in a giant vessel of gold. The sea is dark and flat. The sky is a deep purple twilight. You drift across the water, lap, lap, lap. There is no wind, only the silent momentum of the gods. He reached the island, gathered the cattle, and began the long, slow journey home under the red sunset. And then he walked further than any man had walked before, to the garden of the Hesperides. He needed the golden apples of immortality. He walked until the land ended. He found Atlas, the great Titan. Atlas stood on a mountain peak, holding the celestial sphere, the sky, on his shoulders. Hercules offered to hold the sky while Atlas fetched the apples. Atlas agreed. Atlas shifted the weight. Hercules took it. Feel that moment. The weight of the stars. The weight of the galaxies. The weight of the infinite black vacuum of space. It settled onto the shoulders of Hercules. His knees did not buckle. He stood firm. He became the pillar of the universe. He felt the slow rotation of the earth beneath his feet. He felt the cool vibration of the cosmos pressing down from above. He was the connection between the earth and the sky, fixed, rooted, calm. Atlas returned with the apples. Hercules handed back the sky. He walked away, carrying 3 golden apples that glowed in his hands like captured starlight. The final labor was the hardest, a journey to the land of no return. He had to bring back Cerberus, the guardian of the underworld. He found a cave that led deep into the earth. The air grew cold. The light faded to a dim blue glow. He walked down and down, past the roots of the mountains. He reached the river Styx. The water was black and still as glass. Charon, the boatman, poled his skiff silently through the mist. Hercules stood before Hades, the king of the dead. He did not fight. He asked. Hades smiled. "Take the dog," he said, "if you can master him without weapons." Hercules found the great dog at the gates. The beast was the size of an elephant, with 3 heads that growled like grinding stones. Hercules stepped forward. He wrapped his arms around the beast. He squeezed. The dog thrashed. Hercules held. The dog howled. Hercules held. Slowly, the fight left the beast. Cerberus sat. He whimpered. Hercules leashed him and led him up the long, dark tunnel, back to the light of the sun. The labors were finished, but the journey was not over. To find true humility, Hercules spent a year in the court of Queen Omphale. He did not serve as a warrior. He served as a spinner of wool. Imagine the strongest hands in the world, hands that had choked lions and held up the sky, now learning to handle delicate thread. Day after day, he sat by the wheel. Whir, click, whir, click. He learned to be gentle. He learned that strength is not just about breaking things. Strength is also about creating things. He watched the wool turn from a chaotic pile into a single, ordered thread. It was a year of quiet meditation, a year of slow, circular motion. Spinning, spinning, spinning. Years later, Hercules married Deianira. He finally had the peace he sought. But a trick of the centaur Nessus led to his end. A poisoned shirt, a misunderstanding, a pain that would not stop. Hercules realized his time had come. He climbed Mount Ota. He built a pyre of oak and olive wood. He laid his lion skin down. He placed his club beneath his head. He lay down, not in fear, but in relief. He looked up at the sky. As the flames rose, the mortal part of him, the part that could ache, the part that could weep, burned away. It turned to smoke and drifted into the night air. What was left was gold. What was left was divine. Zeus reached down from Olympus. He lifted his son up. He placed him in the sky. Look up tonight. Find the stars. There he is, the constellation Hercules. He is floating in the velvet darkness. He is not fighting. He is not working. He is simply being. The weight is gone. The silence is eternal. Rest now, weary hero. Your story is told. Sleep. Sleep.